Hey guys, how's it going? Preparing here. Today I'm going to do a little bit of a different video. I'm kind of going to take you guys blast to the past, and I'm going to do that through going over the current issues, let's call them, with ArcheAge. And yeah, I didn't play ArcheAge after it came out. I thought the game would be kind of lackluster. I thought the developers would kind of screw it up in some way or another after the original stuff, and I made a whole video about why I'm not playing it. So I'm not going to go over that, but understand that I haven't played this game in some time. But what I do find fascinating is how people come to abuse these games with like exploits and bots and that kind of stuff, because, you know, to me it's on some level kind of interesting, kind of clever, and also because it's a reoccurring thing. I mean, the reason I'm gonna, kind of go around the blast of the past idea with this video is because like all the stuff here has been seen in other games. I'm going to talk about that and, talk to you guys about some of the stuff I've done in video games and some of the stuff that I've seen, and, well, it should be pretty cool. So all the stuff that I'm going to go over, except for the last little bit, which you guys will see, is from a website. You guys will have the link in the description that goes over the current issues that are plaguing, I think is the word that they used, plaguing ArcheAge. And I don't really know if that's exactly the case. Some people are pretty upset from what I see on the Reddit, but overall, this is some pretty standard stuff for the most part. So let's get into it. The first one, map exploit for trade runs. So this part is not really much. It's basically that you can use certain exploits to get around the map that you're not supposed to. It's basically like hopping over zone walls in World of Warcraft or something like that. This is the most common thing in MMOs that I've ever seen. And just so you guys know, first MMO that I really played is Dark Age of Camelot, and this stuff was as dominant there as it is in any other game. So, this is some really old stuff. It's hard to really call this something that's plaguing a game in any way, but fine. It has some additional benefit to this because a lot of ArcheAge is moving stuff from one place to another without other people killing you. And, using these type of exploits to go through areas that you're not supposed to kind of, makes the exploit much more advantageous to those who know about it. So, fine. Now we get into the fun stuff. Teleports and radars. And radars, if you guys are not familiar with, is basically that, where you can see the players around you on a mini map that's not exactly part of the game. And the way it does this is, because your game has to draw the figures of the other players in the game, that kind of stuff, it has to take information through the network, through their game, that says where everyone is. And there's softwares that pretty much take this information and lay it out on a map. So if you're doing some trade runs, if you don't want to get your ass killed, or if you don't want to run into a group of people that will outnumber you guys or something like that, people use these kind of radars. And this is a really big thing in Dark Age of Camelot, because in Dark Age of Camelot, a lot of people prided themselves in their, kill to death ratios, that kind of stuff. And, you set up a group of 8, and when you'd run into, a Zerg, you'd pretty much be screwed very often. And on the other side, sometimes it'd be very hard to find anyone, and it'd be especially hard to find soloers who were hiding in the crevices of areas. And the bigger groups, the raids, they would have a leader that would use radar and would guide people along past the visible area of their screen. So they'd see that some guy was hiding under a bridge, and they'd go gank his ass or something like that. So it'd be very frustrating for the solo players and extremely advantageous for the group play. And ArcheAge seems just like that. So no surprise, there's radar in this game. Teleports, I mean, I don't think I saw this in Dark Age of Camelot, but I've seen this in a lot of ARPGs. There are teleport hacks, all that kind of stuff in games like Diablo 2, for instance. I haven't seen teleports in too many games, but it's pretty interesting. And there's actually a separate note for the use of teleporting in ArcheAge that we'll go over in a second here. The third thing that they post about is bots. And bots are, as you guys know, I've made a few videos in Hearthstone about them, in my opinion, quite fascinating. And the way they really plague ArcheAge is because ArcheAge is a game that's completely focused around grinding and crafting. And ArcheAge is, most of the features are free. You pay a monthly subscription to essentially own a lot for a house. And for that lot you can like farm stuff, that kind of stuff, through the land part of it. But you can still like farm monsters and trade and use the auction house and that kind of stuff. And to do that, I don't believe you need to pay anything. So it's kind of like an MMO that's totally based around grinding. And the easiest way to grind is to run a bot. So what people are doing? They're running bots in ArcheAge. Oh my god, they're such scumbags. So yeah, I mean, bots, we've seen these in every game. World of Warcraft these days is completely plagued by them. Most Blizzard games are. Seen some in Dark Age of Camelot, for instance. It's the oldest thing. It starts with a mouse that just clicks a certain area like 100 times because you don't want to bother crafting, or some more optimized, some more soft related stuff like we've been seeing these days, that pretty much you run a bot from like a fresh account and it levels up and kills stuff for you and gets you gear and gets you gold and does all that kind of stuff. And well, absolutely no surprise that bots are plaguing this game, because of all the parameters, because of the goal that you have to achieve in this game, to just farm and craft and grind and gain wealth and gain power. I would be surprised if very few people don't bother using bots, actually. So it is what it is. Next one on the list is the auction house mods and snipers. And we know that, at least I know that the auction house system has been heavily looked into, heavily scrutinized from World of Warcraft, because there's a lot of profit making through that. I've done that in the past. If you guys want to check out YouTube videos, I used to be a World of Warcraft auction house guru, but people are taking it to kind of like another level. They use software that sets parameters, and these parameters, if certain items are sold below certain thresholds, the software automatically purchases them. And the first time I saw this kind of stuff is in Diablo 3, and in Diablo 3, there was a reason for it, because there was a lot of money to be made in that game. There's, so many complete noobs, and the whole trading system originally was based on real money. So no surprise that people push it to the next level in that game, and well, they're bringing it to this one. That's basically exactly what they're doing. It's a free game. You have an account, so you trade all you want. You offload the stuff if you don't want to get caught, and well, you make another little bit of profit. It's kind of like running your own little bot, but it's more or less an auction house bot. And again, pretty fascinating. But this is the type of stuff that, in my opinion, is very frustrating for players who kind of want to put their own work. Players who have their own strategy with auction houses, that kind of stuff, which I saw a lot of in World of Warcraft. These type of bots really take away from that. So it's a little bit upsetting to some people, and it's though quite understandable as well. Then we have the land claiming hack. So this is kind of what I try to lead in with the teleport thing. Basically, in ArcheAge, it's very difficult to own a piece of land because there's a finite limit. You have to pay rent for when you get it, and when your rent expires, someone else can essentially purchase your land, or what event at that point will be vacant. It would be a vacant lot. And when lots become vacant, there is quite some competition for them, because generally there are none available, because the way the game is designed, a certain number people who started playing the game, they got them already. So just kind of scavenge around until one opens up. And people are running scripts to where a character can teleport to the lot directly wherever in the world it may be, and immediately purchase it through a script. So no other player, even standing right by it, could replicate that and could even compete for the lot without this kind of software. So this really hurts players who play ArcheAge, because, as I mentioned, the only reason you really pay subscription is so you have a housing lot, and if all the lots are taken, and you're not using third-party software to hack and teleport to get your own lot, and other people are, so you can never get one, then I can imagine that would suck. but still, it's a pretty interesting concept. It's kind of using an existing hack to teleport stuff for a very practical use. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. And then we have Super Zoom. Super Zoom there's a little bit of an image there that you can see. People just zoom like crazy outwards, so it works kind of like radar. You can see how things are, where things are, the people around you. Just way more information than the regular client would normally allow you to see. And on this note, I have seen a lot of this stuff in other games. To a slower extent, we've known some issues with World of Warcraft that you could zoom out past the regular parameters, but a more interesting case of this seeing stuff that you're not supposed to be seeing, I saw a lot of in Dark Age of Camelot as well. In Dark Age of Camelot, again, it's another MMO, typical stuff. A lot of the PvP was based on like hiding around, taking people by surprise and that kind of stuff. And Dark Age of Camelot, I don't think supported it, but it wasn't too difficult to do. It was to switch character models. So you do it through the files. It wouldn't be very difficult. I have no idea anymore how to do it, but if you wanted your hat to look like a different hat, or if you wanted your race to look like a different race, just local side on your client, you could do that. You could edit the game files. And what people did, they would replace like a little itty bitty dagger from like the stealthy nightshade. They'd replace that with the animation of like a boat, like a vessel. So, this little nightshade's hiding behind a tree, but you see the tree, and then you see a massive boat, just kind of dangling near the tree. So you know that the dude is there because he's using the most common type of weapon, whatever that kind of dagger may have been, and, well, you see him from a mile away. So it acts kind of like an undetectable radar, it gives you way more information, and I won't be surprised if we'll be hearing some of that from this game soon, because it does seem pretty vulnerable to what I would consider the oldest schemes, the oldest tricks in the book. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Next one is Speed Hack. So Speed Hack, this is also pretty big in Dark Age of Camelot and a lot of games afterwards. I know that Speed Hack was actually occurring in World of Warcraft, but when I started playing World of Warcraft just after a Burning Crusade, I hadn't heard about it anymore. So I guess they did some kind of fix, some kind of protection against it. But basically, Speed Hack, like in Dark Age of Camelot, you'd be playing PvP, and you'd be duking it out with the other dude, and he's almost about to die, and then he just blitzes like into the horizon, instantly. You're like, what the hell just happened? So it'd be very noticeable, but it'd mostly be kind of like a detection thing. I feel that some games do a very poor job of penalizing people who use this type of stuff, and I'm hoping that the same kind of stuff will come up from ArcheAge. But in general, it is a very hilarious thing to see when you do see it. It's kind of like the glitch in the Matrix kind of deal. So, but yeah, you basically go around the world really, really fast. It's basically like a teleport hack. And, if they fix one, they'll probably look into the other. But for now, apparently both exist. And the last one on the list is like a freeze hack or something. I don't know. Apparently you can just stop the motion of vessels and characters with some kind of software or something like that, which seems pretty interesting. If you could be selective about it, if you could just lock people in place and have your friends kill them while you and them are locked in place, something like that. I don't know. I don't really know that much about this one, so we'll let this one pass. What I do want to talk about is, so I've gone over ArcheAge. It may seem to you guys like I'm overly punishing, overly stressing how bad this game is and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is, I don't really know. These are certainly issues, but most games these days, they run the profit model. The company just focuses on keeping that system in place, and the rest kind of slides. So in my opinion, all the stuff that I just mentioned, it's typical. It's by the book, third-party software, that kind of stuff. It is a little bit excessive. Usually not all these little issues plague one game at the same time, so maybe they could have done a better job. But on the other side, there is another thing that I learned about ArcheAge, which I feel you guys should know if you guys were thinking of maybe firing up the game, and that is in regard to balance. So yeah, people use third-party stuff, and it's all the games are plagued in some way by it, and others in higher degrees than most, perhaps. But what I want to talk about is the balance of items. So I have never played any MMO ever where you could get something that would be twice as good, that would be considered, end game. So yeah, that's maybe a bad explanation, but I'll show you guys what I mean. So here you go. These are two bows. So the bow on the right, the Fated Bow of Courage, is basically, from what I've been informed, the bow that most people work a little bit to get, and it's kind of what just everybody has. And the bow to the left of that, the Delphinid Gale Bow, is one that a player was very lucky to craft. You have to, fire a bunch of crafting mats, and you have to get lucky while crafting it. And if you notice, the DPS is more than double on the base damage of the weapon. So if you compare this to World of Warcraft, it's from what I've seen out of the game, it's completely unheard of, and especially from crafting. And especially because a lot of the crafting is heavily influenced by the money you put into the game, and from what we've seen, the bots that you run and the RMT that you do and all the fun little activities, all that kind of stuff is going to push people to these type of items faster. And what I've also learned is that on top of item balancing being crazy off, a lot of people are really frustrated playing against archers in PvP, just because archers have just as many escape cooldowns as melee. So melee, an archer jumps on a melee, the melee uses a cooldown to get to the archer uses the same cooldown to get away, and they have exactly the same kind of stuff. So the guy with the range, and right now it's the archer, always has the advantage. But I'm not going to go too much into that because, well, I don't really know too much about what I'm talking about, and with balance, with that kind of stuff, it usually gets changed. But this is another example that, to me, from a mostly outside perspective, I have played the game, it seems that they push the pay model a bit too far. I mean, you can't have an item that does twice as much damage as another. I understand if it's a trinket or something, but if it's what causes your entire character to scale, it's just absolutely not fair. So that part kind of sucks. But the rest, the exploits, I'll talk about the old games that I've played and all that kind of stuff. I hope you guys enjoy that. And again, if you guys are enjoying ArcheAge, despite all the issues, don't let me change that. So, hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.